Okay, I said I was going to start telling my tale. And here it goes. From the beginning. When I was a kid, I thought of Bigfoot, I guess, every once in a while, but I didn't really think too much about it. I've been running this town since I was 7. Not running, like up and down the river, out in the woods around the town. I lived in town. My grandparents. And a good relationship with my mom and dad. And everything was pretty sweet. And so like the very first time I ever heard about Bigfoot was I was in the gas station talking to this chick, right? And I'm like 20, maybe 21 or something. And I got to tie my shoe here. And I'm talking to her, and this guy I know, he's in a grade younger than me. He comes in with his friend, and he's all pale and all like he looks like he's gonna cry and stuff. And I look at his sister. That's the chick I was talking to. So he come into the gas station to talk to his sister, and he's frantic. And he starts talking. He's like, "You can't." He holds his mouth. He runs into the bathroom. He throws up, right? And I'm looking at his friend and her, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "I don't know, something's wrong because he always throws up when he's scared." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, he gets scared. He throws up." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay." And he comes out of the bathroom, he's still frantic or whatever, and he's like talking about this monster that was down at their fishing spot because they were fishing out at Bell Creek, which is like 8 miles out of town, and it had gotten dark on them, and they were out there drinking and fishing for carp, chubs, trout, whatever. And they're out there fishing, and he said that, I got the story straight here over the years, but he said that they saw these red glowing eyes across the river, standing right where they could see him, like he stepped into view, right? And the thing had long teeth, and it was like mean looking, and it had red eyes, and it had like pointy ears. And he said it was tall, right? He was a big dude. And he's, whatever. And then his older guy comes in. He's a couple years older than me. He comes in, and they're friends already with these two younger guys. And he says, "What's going on?" And Chris told him again, and he's like, "Well, let's go out there." And those two guys are like, "No, we're not going out there." He's like, "Well, you left all your stuff out there. Let's go get it." And he talked them into going out there, right? And I didn't stick around to see what happened, and I wish I had gone with, but I come to find out later that when they went out there to get the stuff, all 3 of them saw it again. Okay? They saw it again. And it always intrigued me. For the next few years, I was really, really intrigued by that story, and I told a lot of people about it all the time. I always told that story. And then it wasn't long after that the next story I heard, because see, my whole experience with Bigfoot all started with these stories I heard from people around here, things that happen around here, And okay, I gotta backtrack. Actually, when I was locked up for 81 days as a juvenile, I was 17, right? There was this kid, and his name was Joe P, and they called me Joe D, right? And anyways, he tried to tell me the story, and we all made fun of him at the time, but actually I didn't. I remember I didn't make fun of him. Other kids did. Anyways, he was hunting. His dad runs a fishing guide service and a bait shop, and he's like, oh, I almost fell in. He's like, "Yeah, I was out hunting with my dad and my uncle one time, and we were all sitting in the blind, and they were all looking out, and they're like, look. He said he saw Bigfoot. They said all 3 of them saw this big hairy dude." Okay, and I was intrigued. All right, so that's the very first tale I ever heard. But that's Joe P from Cambridge, and But anyways, I had heard that. But locally, that was the first tale was this wood beast they came to call it the wood beast, right? So then maybe a year, 2 or 3 after that, there was a couple of younger kids again who were his dad and his dad. He went on like vacation or something for like 2 weeks, okay, and left the house to his son. And his son, he was ready to make friends and have parties. And we partied there. Well, they partied there every night. I was there a couple nights, but it's like out in the country, like 6 miles out, and it's in like a valley where a river runs through it. Sweet country. And but anyways, one night I got a week. See, I come like during one of the last days, right? And the week before that, they had seen, these 2 guys had seen something, right? And my friend, I was best man in his wedding. He's crazy. He had this idea. Let's go down to the pond and let's get that boat out in the water. Now, this story already is funny because I've seen this boat, and I don't think it's even gonna float, right? Anyways, I'm not there. I just hear the story, anyways. And then I didn't even know he was about to say this, but he's telling the story. And he's like, "Yeah, he was down there messing with the boat, and I was standing there with Josh, and we were like trying to get this, you know, get this bowl going, and they were like giggling and laughing. They were drunk. You know, these guys are like 18, 16, 15, you know, and then all of a sudden, my friend who was trying to get the boat untied, he looks up, and he's like, "What the hell's that?" And then the guys weren't even listening, and then he ran by him and pushed him, and he was over by the fence. And he was holding the fence down and up. It's a barbed wire fence, so you lift up and you push down or whatever so you can crawl through, right? He's holding it. He's like, "Come on, you guys want to die? You want to die? Come on." And they're like, what? You know, they're still giggling and stuff. They're like, what? And he's like, "Look." And they turned around and looked, and there was this white Bigfoot. They were come to call it the white Bigfoot. And other people out in that country have told about that too, I've heard. But I didn't hear them stories. But anyways, the white Bigfoot was coming down the side of this square pond. It's like a square pond about the size of a football field. Not even. And he's coming around the back right corner, walking it down the right side of the pond. And these guys are on the front side, right? And there's a gravel road right behind him that goes right along the pond. And he said they ran up to his truck, and Brett wanted to see it. So he got in his truck and he drove down there, and it was gone. Okay? It was gone. Now this Tony D kid, he's the one that was there and was closing this other kid I know named Josh. And I talked to both those guys a couple times in the last 20 years. And I get the same story and I get the same look, and they're not screwing around with me, okay? It's the real thing, right? And then he starts telling me another story. That's the crazy thing, right? He starts talking about they were sitting in this car, right? And he was in the back seat of the car. And he was like, you know, getting stuff together for him because these guys wanted to party, you know? And he's got the goods, you know? So he's in the back, right? And he's like, you know, he said he'd been up a couple days, but that's the only reason why he thought he was seeing things when he was looking out the window, okay? The 2 guys up front, you know, they're up there doing their thing, and he's in the back, you know, tripping, zoning out, you know? Been up for a couple days. And he's like, you know how like when you're in a car with the dome light on, and you know you look out the window, you can't see nothing really, okay? But he thought he saw something move, okay? And then he like, or I don't know what order, but then he said he heard some drum beats, okay? And he thought it was all in his head, you know? And he didn't want to like sound stupid, he said, or something like that, I think. And he said, but anyways, he thought he saw something move by this pile of what he thought was a pile of wood, right? And he said, you know, he's looking at it, he's thinking there's someone standing over there behind the tree. And then he told the guys up front, "Hey, look, you guys look over there." And you know, they're like, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" He said it took him a minute to even look out the window, right? And by the time, when he finally got my friend, he is a kid named Joe, God rest his soul, he died recently, that's pretty sad. But anyways, he put his hands, you know, you cup your hands over the window and you peek out, you know, when it's, you know, like when it's light in the car and it's dark outside, you want to see out there. He went to put his face up to the window, and when he did, another face was right at the window, and it was like, "Urgh," showed its teeth, and it was like, "Urgh," and then it lifted the car. The car went up on a tilt on the sideways, right? And it dropped to the ground, boom, right? And then, so Joe up in the front seat was face to face with the creature. He's like, oh, he's freaking out, and he put his left foot on the gas pedal as the same time he dropped the shifter down to drive. And my friend Matt, he said that he just barely stopped it before they went down into the woods. Okay. So like Joe's freaking out or whatever, and nothing. That was the story. But I always wanted to know what lifted that car. You know what I'm saying? I always wanted to know what lifted that car, and that was the question I always asked people. And that's another story. I told that story so many times. I'm telling you right now. I mean, could you imagine face to face with something you never even thought was real? I mean, Joey kind of messed him up a little bit. Like, he wouldn't, like, I come to find out later in life, like, I'm telling this story, right? And this guy goes, oh, so that's why Joe won't come out into the woods to get wood with me at night. Like, he goes cuts wood for money and stuff. So my friends, they do that. And he wouldn't go out at night. All right? That's pretty coincidental, you know. I mean, not coincidental, I'm just saying telling. It wasn't a tale that they made up, you know. And also, whenever I talked to Joe about it, he'd always say that he thought it was a demon. He didn't know what he was like. Yeah, when I say Bigfoot, I don't know, man. I don't think so. I think it was a demon, or something like that, you know. And the drum beats, I think that they could be like, boom, 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 you know, like something like that. Because I have a tale I'll tell you sometime about the sonic boom. It sounds like a gunshot, boom, and I think they can make these sounds, you know. Anyways, so yeah, and then the other kid, the driver, I've seen him a couple times since then. He gets real excited when I bring up the story and we talk about it again. And then Tony D was in the back seat. I don't ever see him, but he tells a good story. I'd love to hear that again. But yeah, and that's 8 miles one direction for one, and then the other story is another, 8 miles in a different direction, and they're all in these valleys, you know, creek valleys, small river valleys, all going into the Mississippi. This is prime country, people. Prime country. I mean, you're looking at the best spot on the river right now. All right? Best spot on the river. I'd like to catch a fish for you guys, though. So those are two tales I had heard. Okay? And then I was telling those tales back then, right? And then, well, you'll just have to check the next video for that one, man. It's another one, man. The whole party, they all just upped and left the bonfire rolling, jumping in their cars, skidding out to get away from this thing. All right. YouTube out.